All right, so I know we're just a little bit early, so I'm going to mute myself again here in a moment. So just know that this recording is started a little early, so if you're watching this on YouTube later on, you'll just need to advance about 4 minutes into the video before we start the broadcast officially. I just want to make sure everything was working right before we got started. So just sit tight and we'll begin in just a couple of minutes. Thanks. All right, so let's get started. So I'm going to start, just quickly introduce myself. I'm Jake Standish. I am the Program Manager of Digital Learning in Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools. And what we wanted to talk about today was enhancing digital reading and literacy. So the concept of exploring literacy and reading, the best practices using a digital environment. So in just a moment, I'm going to turn off my camera. We're going to go back to sharing the screen because you don't really need to see the brick wall behind me or me. So let's jump into this. So enhancing digital reading and literacy is the concept today. This presentation, if you go into if you're watching it live here in the Google Hangout, you'll see it as a link in the sidebar, but it's also available. We'll put it in the YouTube comments area, so you'll be able to see this presentation if you want to go through it. Every item that we talk about in it has links, so you'll be able to open up and go to each of those pages. All right, so let's get started. I really want to look at 4 different topics regarding digital reading and literacy. The first one, kind of a controversial one, so let me just start by saying I'm not endorsing the concept, but there are some takeaways that are of value for the concept of speed reading. We're also going to look at how to summarize text using tools to help find the main ideas, annotating text, and then building vocabulary. So there are many different digital tools that enhance and extend best practices and a lot of brain theory around these 4 items. Now, I will say I am not an expert in these areas other than what I have learned myself, my own experiences with it, and what every teacher has learned through literacy training. As we all know, whenever you're teaching, you are a literacy teacher as well. It is a key component for any subject, is students being able to read and comprehend what they're reading and also communicate what they are reading. So I just put in that caveat there, not necessarily the expert on this, but these are some tools that I know of that can really help enhance reading and literacy. Okay, so first off, speed reading. There is a particular category of tools in speed reading that are quite interesting and can lend themselves to some powerful aspects of reading and fluency. And that's the concept of rapid serial visual presentation. Okay, so the idea is to use technologies to help present words in text at your on a display so that they can be presented at a particular reading rate. So it can train your eyes to be more to move or to read very quickly words, the concept of sight words at an early level, being able to pick up on your sight words. You can do that with this RSVP concept. What the tools are usually used for RSVP is to try to get people reading at maybe 1,000 words a minute. That is not necessarily grounded in any sound research. In fact, most research is saying that if the reader is unable to hear the words in their head, if they're unable to have that inner voice saying the words as they're reading, then the comprehension level drops dramatically. Not to say that speed readers aren't able to comprehend more than a normal reader when they read at a high rate. However, they do comprehend less than anyone who reads at a slower rate. So reading slow is not something that I'm trying to address or suggest that we can improve. I'm not even suggesting that we need to. What I am suggesting is that this technology to make rapid serial visual presentations possible can help as students are learning their sight words and help them increase their reading rate, but not necessarily get to what people would qualify as speed reading. So let's take a look at the tools. They might help understand what we're looking at here. So there are many tools out there, and again, buyer beware, and the research about speed reading is not necessarily supporting what some of these products say they can do, but let's just see what value we can get out of them. So the one I like the most is a web tool called Spritz. There are some mobile apps and even software that you can install on any computer. iReadFast is open source, so you can install it on any computer, and it works on all platforms, and there's no price to them. The apps, some do have a price tag to them, but all of these, and there are many more, have this rapid serial visual presentation concept to them. So I like Spritz, as I said. So when you click on the link, it will take you to the Spritz website. And there's a lot of resources in here, but you can get Spritz, and what it will do is, well, you can find apps for it, but there's also the bookmarklet. Let's see. So there, the bookmarklet, it might be somewhere else. Okay, so we can see here, it's a kind of showing you a demo of it here, where it's reading the text on the website. You can pause it, and you can go incrementally, one word at a time. And you can also change the words per minute. And so this is kind of showing you the concept. So this company, Spritz, has developed their RSVP program here to be able to present text on any website in this way. Their bookmarklet, which I have installed up here on my Chrome browser, will work on any web page that has text that it can present to us. So if we went to, let's just go to National Geographic, we'll see different articles in here. Let's see. This may not be the page I want to go to. I'm trying to find some text. All right, so all right. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of text in here, but we'll give it a try. So I'm going to hit the Spritzlet, the bookmarklet that is here, and it will load. And it's reading the words. Now I'm at 180 words per minute, which is pretty slow, but if we're considering at a particular age level, that might be just fine. But you can slow it down even further because I'm logged into the account. I can slow down to even 40 words per minute. So it's a very slow, but it helps keep the student progressing through the text. I can also speed it up. And I have found that even for me, I can speed up the reading, nowhere near speed reading levels, but I can speed up the reading to maybe 700 words per minute. And I can still read and hear the words in my head as I'm reading it and able to comprehend what is happening with that. So Spritz is just a really good tool for being able to do that kind of stuff. It is also good for, like I said, any text. So even email, I have been known to pull up my email and be able to run the Spritz after I see someone has written me a very long email. I can click on Spritz and it will present the text to me that way. So I can kind of force myself to focus in on the words, one word at a time, and it sets the pace for me to be able to read. So the RSVP, a rapid serial visual presentation, is a very key component on a lot of reading tools. So it's just an interesting concept, and I encourage you to take a look at it. So there's Spritz, as I showed you here, but on Android, Balto is free, and that's a good one for presenting as well. And there are several iOS apps that they seem to all have price tags. I was having trouble finding a free RSVP app for iOS, but there are several out there that might have a little tag to them. And then there's even software. In the iReadFast software, you can take an entire ebook and make them read right to you. And speaking of which, ebooks, there's Project Gutenberg. That's not necessarily what we're talking about today in that in the enhancing reading, but it's a great place for text. I should have gone there first. So we can pick up any public domain text and find it in Project Gutenberg. So Wizard of Oz, Alice in Wonderland, even some really obscure stuff is out there. But you can find it in a lot of different formats in Project Gutenberg. So I'm just going to do the HTML version of it. So here it is. And if I turn on Spritz on this web page, it's going to read the entire book to me because this web page just goes on and on. It's the entire text of The Wizard of Oz. So I could read The Wizard of Oz and use Spritz to kind of focus my eyes to make sure that I'm paying attention. Maybe reading a little too fast, so we can slow it down. But you can get the idea for exactly how this works and can focus in on the words. I even like the color here in the letter. If you focus right on that red letter in each word, that's training your eye to see the most, to be able at a glance, that sight word concept, being able to see the whole word by just focusing on that one letter. So anyway, that's a great resource. Spritz and RSVP and Project Gutenberg is good place to find a whole lot of text, fiction, but also nonfiction. So you can find the informational text even in here. Maybe pretty old informational text, but it is informational text nonetheless. Okay. Oh, next one I wanted to look at is we're talking about speed reading. There are speed reading tests out there. Staples has an interesting one. It's just a way to measure your reading rate. So let's see if it's going to load for us. Okay, so when you click on the start reading, it gives you a passage of something to read. It's different every time, but like here's War of the Worlds, another great example of an public domain book that you could read from Project Gutenberg, but it's right here. So it has you read this passage, then you say you're finished. So it's seen how long. It says I read 186 words in 16 seconds. I didn't really, but let's see if I know the answers here. You answer some questions, and then it'll tell you based on your comprehension. I'm just going to make. I'm not sure how right those are. I know the middle one is. Ooh, no, it's not at all. So I did terrible. Okay, so it's saying, yeah, you didn't actually understand what you're reading. Read a little slower and try again. So once you read the text and you answer the questions correctly, it will tell you your actual reading rate. So it's just a nice way to get an idea of how quickly you read. I do caution again about that. Is that something we really want to focus on when we're looking at reading and literacy? We need our students just to read. The more you read, the faster you will get. And if you worry about how fast you're reading, it'll only cause stress and might prevent students from really feeling like they're successful. So we don't want to emphasize this too much, but it's a resource to look at. Next is summarizing text. Now, Microsoft Word used to have this feature, and I'm hoping they're bringing it back. I haven't seen the latest version of Office yet to know this, but they used to have the ability to take any document. You could ask for it to make an abstract or a summary of the text. So it analyzed all of the paragraphs and pull out key sentences to give you a summary. It wasn't perfect. And it's definitely not an easy button completely that you could just let it summarize and trust the summary is right where it should be. So I would discourage anyone from thinking that way. But the summary feature in Microsoft Office, again, it's not there anymore. It was like 2007, I think it was the last time they had it. But if it comes back, it would be a tool that would allow you to summarize text. There's a website called Summary, SMMRY, summary.com, and it will automatically summarize text on any website and into a set of sentences. I don't think it can do a Project Gutenberg book, but let's try it. So you can paste all of the text, or you can just put in a URL. And you can tell it how many sentences you want it to summarize in. Let's give it a few more sentences since it's an entire book. Let's see if that'll work. And we're going to wait just a moment while we're waiting for that. I'm just going to go to more informational text and see if it's going to bring that up. It's still analyzing Gutenberg. I may have choked it. Maybe a little bit more text than it wants to work with. The Microsoft Word would have definitely been able to handle a huge text file like that, but not worry. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, we're going to skip that because that's taking too long. I'm just going to grab the URL for this other article, something about some current event news article. Click summarize. And we seem to be having some more trouble. Okay, just wait for the server here for a moment. I do apologize. This seems to be stuck for me for a moment. So I'm just going to see if you have any questions. Feel free to put them into the question bar over here. On the right, you should see the question bar that you can add in. Try try reloading the page because it seems to be stuck. Let's see if I can just copy that and then go. Oh, there's the problem. If you look at the URL up here, what it's doing, you can, a quick fix to this, summary.com, if you just add a / and then the address of whatever web page you want it to summarize, it will analyze and summarize that page for you. So it was still trying to do the Project Gutenberg, so I may have to just clear that out, and let's try it again over here. Okay, so it's thinking for us for a moment. But the idea is that it will give us a summary. So while I'm waiting on that, whether it gives us the summary right this minute or not, do apologize about the technical details. But if it doesn't, want you to realize that, as I was saying before, the summary may not be perfect. It may not be as good as a human being can do, but it's doing some of the work, helping students understand how to summarize. So just like the concept with Google Translate can have concerns for our foreign language teachers, what you should do is leverage this tool to help students realize that it's not perfect, and then they can critique and improve the summary based on this. So having read the entire article, here's a summary. How would you fix it? How would you improve this summary? How would you modify it? What's missing? How can you, here it is in 7 sentences, how can you modify it to do it in 5 sentences? How would you condense this? So still practicing the ability to communicate and concisely analyze informational text, but they can get into more critiquing of this. So it summarized this down into 7 sentences. Okay. I can also take keywords, click on them, and it's going to tell me how many times that word shows up. It kind of highlights them. Boy, we do seem to be having some network slowdowns right now, but there we see all these different words showing up. Kind of highlights them and kind of gives you the idea for why that word was used, because it shows up this many times with this frequency. And there are different settings that you can add into this. The heat map idea is quite interesting. So it just gives you a feel for why it's summarized with these particular sentences from the whole article. All right, so summary.com. Again, there's several ways to do the summaries. The easiest way really is to just, when you get to a website that you want to summarize, just go to the front of the URL and add smmry.com/. If you do that, it will convert the website into the summary that you want. Or you can paste the text right into the, well, that's not going to work. Paste the text from wherever it is into the box, and it will try to summarize it for you too. So there's a lot of different ways to go at this. Anyway, that's summary.com. Okay. Next, annotating text. So a key component as we look at Common Core and literacy is close reading. The idea of really reading to comprehend, to analyze and annotate and put notes and highlights and all these different ideas to find what matters, find the significance in the reading for you. So that's often done with paper and highlighters and Post-it notes. So that seems like doing it that way is the only way to close read, but actually you can annotate, you can highlight and put in sticky notes on the internet. There are 2 very powerful tools for that, Diigo and Read and Write for Google. So I want to show both of those. So Diigo is, it's been around quite a while. It's it was the social bookmarking 2.0 tool, I would say. Delicious was the first big social bookmarking tool, so you can make bookmarks and share bookmarks with others. Diigo took that concept and enhanced it by allowing you to not just bookmark websites, but annotate on them as well. So I have installed the Diigo extension on my Chrome browser here, and you can see the button right up there with the big blue D. But there are other ways to use Diigo. There are apps in both Android and iOS app stores. There's also bookmarklet like Spritz. There's a Diigo bookmarklet, so you can install that on other web browsers besides Chrome. You can also put it on Chrome, but I'd recommend the extension if you're going to do that. To find all of those options, you just click on top. You'll need to create an account. It's free. There's a paid account, but you don't really need that. You can just use the free one. And you can go to the settings feature. Or no, I'm sorry. Go to the tools on your account, and this is where it will show you. You can add bookmarklets like the Diigo bookmarklet, and there's a Diigo extension for Chrome, IE, and Firefox, so you can put it on any of those. And there are many other apps and services that Diigo provides, but either add the extension or the bookmarklet is what I'd recommend. For iPad, I'd use the web highlighter, or the Diigo app is great. Let's see what it does. Okay, so I'm going to go to a website, and actually, why not use the Digital Learning Day homepage? Because there's a great post right here on the homepage by Brittany Guy from Forsyth County. First time I read it, I loved it. I went in this morning, and I bookmarked it in Diigo. So if you look in the top right corner, you can see my Diigo icon for the extension has a red bookmark on it now, little ribbon there showing that we've bookmarked this page. If I click on the Diigo extension, it's going to bring up all the things that I've done with this page as its bookmark. Okay, so it'll bring up the tools that I have here. I'm going to click on the annotate, and what you're going to see are the annotations I've already done. So I read this, and when I got to personalizing instruction for students should be our goal, that seemed like a pretty important concept. So I highlighted it as I'm close reading here. The world has the capacity to find trends in our searches, our friends, and our choices. That's a really interesting idea, and it made me think something. Made me think, can it create amazing opportunities having the trends in our searches and knowing who our friends are and all the choices we make with technology, saying that the world has the capacity to find those trends. It's exciting opportunity, but there's also some scary consequences that can come out of that. So I just put a little Post-it note there because I wanted to comment and be able to think about what that means and remind myself what I was thinking. Just like you would write in the margins of a book or add a Post-it note, the kinds of quality reading, close reading skills that we are teaching in class, you can do right here on any web page. So I really enjoyed having that ability. You can save it indefinitely. As long as you have your Diigo extension or bookmarklet installed, it will know your account, and it will know to bring forth these highlights and these little comments as you've used them at any time in the past. And you can even color code that, so you can have multiple colors for your different highlights. And what's really neat about this, when I make a note, I can actually share it with a group of people. And I have different groups of people that I share with, different resources. So I can post a comment. Maybe this one over here is a private comment, but if I wanted others to see it, I can share it so other people can see that comment and see my highlights if I share the highlights with them. So it becomes, that's the whole social concept of it. So when a teacher needs to see evidence that students are genuinely close reading with informational text on the internet, they can do that using that share feature, so they'd be able to see the students' annotations on a web page and then provide them feedback. If you're doing that, why not do a video, just like I'm doing right here, and talk to the student about what they annotated and look at their comments and provide feedback about what they have shown through their close reading. Okay, so it's just a really interesting way to do that. I want to take just a moment to bring up, I heard, okay, all's good. So now the other tool for close reading that I wanted to mention here is Read and Write for Google. This is created by a company known as Text Help, and they've made a really interesting product, very similar to what we're talking about with Diigo. But Read and Write for Google offers the same annotation and note-taking ability as Diigo for Google Docs, the internet, PDF files, and EPUBs. So for Diigo, you can annotate. Oops, I went to the wrong page. You can annotate the HTML version of a Project Gutenberg book. You can annotate, but if this is a PDF, if it were a PDF, I would not be able to do any of the annotations that I can in the HTML version. So that's an interesting thing that Read and Write for Google does, is it gives you the annotation ability on PDF files, where a lot of our text that students need to work in are PDF format. They're not going to be just a web page. So Read and Write for Google gives you that ability. So it's PDF files and EPUBs that you save into Google Drive will be able to annotate using Read and Write for Google. So it's an extension as well, just like Diigo, but it sits right up here in the Omnibox of your browser. But we can, well, I'm not on, interesting, I can't do that on their page. That's okay. So I'm going to go to back here and bring up, here's Read and Write for Google, brings out a toolbar for you. And there are several different aspects here of Read and Write for Google that is quite interesting. So I can select the word illustrated, and I could highlight it just like it did with Diigo, and I could make a comment if I wanted. But I can also click on the definition button, and it will bring up a definition of the word illustrated for me. Maybe. Might be stuck. Give me just a moment. Okay, let's go to a different page. Let's see what happens here. So using, wait for the Read and Write to come up. Okay, so if I highlight the word admiral here, click on the definition, the dictionary, it will give me, well, if I select the whole word, it didn't get the whole word, so let's try that. Admiral. No results found. Okay, interesting. Maybe alarm is going to work. There we are. So we can see the different words here about it, definitions. We can even
known. A tool that sets off a loud noise to warn you of something.
That's pretty interesting. But the other thing about this, there's the dictionary, there's also the visual dictionary. So it will give you pictures, a non-linguistic representation of the word. So that's kind of cool too. So as I start highlighting words, I can do that and come up with a lot of these different basically create my list of words that I need to learn more about. And then I can click over here on the vocabulary lookup, or let's click on the vocabulary lookup. What it's going to do is create a Google document with the words that I just highlighted. So it's creating my vocabulary list for me. So it'll take the word, if it has a definition, it will put it in. It will put in the picture dictionary, and then I can take some notes from that. So It's a really interesting feature to be able to do all that. So the Read and Write for Google does have a lot of EC or ESL aspects to it that are really nice, but it could be great for any student when you think about the close reading component to this. So I'd be able to highlight any of these words that I want, or any even phrases that I want, just like I can in no, yeah, it's not working in Gutenberg, but I can highlight just like I would with Diigo on these web pages, and be able to do everything that I'd want. I can also have it read for me. So whenever I click, it'll start.
The ability of the U.S. and Canadian military to.
It'll start reading the sentences for me. So that's pretty cool. So text helps Read and Write for Google. It kind of takes what Diigo has and makes it even more accessible for all of your students. Okay. All right. Ooh, sorry about that. All right. So let's go back to the presentation here. So Diigo and Read and Write are just two examples of tools that can really help you to annotate text and do the close reading skills that we need on any text on the internet. So the last concept I wanted to look at was building vocabulary. And this is a pretty hefty concept, and it's something that's valuable indefinitely. We all have to build our vocabulary over time. If you consider the last 5 years, how many technology vocabulary words have entered into your everyday use? The cloud, Wi-Fi, the different internet concepts like sharing URLs, the Omnibox in a browser. Most are converting to an Omnibox instead of having a search and an address bar. You've got both together. So there's a lot of interesting vocabulary that comes out. And over time, you remember them, is the idea. So there is some very solid brain research about how we remember stuff. Oops, sorry about that. I'm trying to scroll here. So we've got the okay. So the concept of the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve is the idea that as you learn something, the first time you're exposed to it, the moment you hear it, you repeat it, like in the moment, when you have heard it, you know it, okay? But because you've only had one exposure to it, one repetition of it, of that concept, you can explain it for a very short period of time, and it doesn't take long for you to quickly lose retention of that material. So you may drop down to only remembering 50% of what that concept entailed within minutes. Okay. Now, as you repeat it again a little bit later, you'll get back up to 100% because you're studying it. You're making sure that you understand, checking your comprehension, and then you remember it for a while. You actually remember it longer this time. Maybe you remember it for a day or a couple of days, and it's slower to forget. You're slower to forget what you were learning. A third repetition, you're even slower to forget what you were learning. You're more likely to retain it, right? So the idea is if we keep repeating, every repetition gives us a longer space between a longer space that we can remember, a longer space of comprehension. So with enough repetitions, you get to a point where you remember indefinitely. Okay, you might forget a little bit of it, but it comes back very quickly because you have repeated it enough. Just like in athletics, and when you're conditioning your body, you're building muscle memory. The same is true for your brain. Okay. Sorry about that. Looks like I had a website that was making noise, so I just quickly closed that. All right, so the concept of the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve is simply repetitions help you to remember. And so spaced repetition is the key. So it's not just studying every day the exact same vocabulary list. You should take that vocabulary list and study the ones you have the most trouble with frequently, the ones you don't have as much trouble with less frequently. And it's a way to really become efficient with your knowledge. Now the word spaced repetition is the key. We'll bring up more reading about this. There's a great article here about what spaced repetition is and how important it is to learning vocabulary. So let's go into that. So there are different ways to build vocabulary, and we're talking digital, so I'm thinking digital flashcards. So flippity.net is probably one of the easiest of flashcard generators that you could find, that you can create with. There are others out there. I know a lot of people use quite a variety of them, but here's just one very simple example of a flashcard creator. So what it does is you got the front of the card, you can flip it over, see the back of the card, and then you can advance to see the next one. Okay, so it even looks like index cards, right? And they're color coded, and that's interesting. So you can make your deck of flashcards using Flippity. The way it works is just go to flippity.net and you'll see the same page. You download a template. So it makes a copy of a Google document. Let me just say, sure, make a copy. And in this document, you will see just what we were saying. The first question on that flashcard was the chemical formula of water, and then the back side of it had H2O. And you notice it can even use HTML tags that bracket or less than, sub, greater than, to, less than, / sub, greater than. Those symbols right there are telling the Flippity to render the to as a subscript. Okay, so you can use HTML tags to bold or italicize or change the color. A lot of different things you can do with the text on that. That's the formatting. You actually just use a spreadsheet. One column are the front of the cards, and the next column are the back of the cards. An image. This is an image. It's just a URL to the picture. So when you get to that flashcard in Flippity, you would see a picture of Vincent van Gogh. So let's see if we can go to that one. So it's is in here. There he is. So for the spreadsheet, all you have to do is get the URL to a picture on the internet, and that picture will then be on the flashcard. So really simple to configure. And again, you can color code the cards. You could give them all a different color, give the text a different color. So some fun things you can do there. Once you've established what you want this to be. Okay, so I'm just going to edit this. I just modified the very first card. That's the only difference from the original one on the site. But I'm going to show you how we can publish this. So you go to the second tab in the spreadsheet down here where it says get the link here. And then we just go up to File. And it tells us what to do here. Go to File, Publish to the Web, click Publish, then copy and paste the link below. So we go up to File, click Publish to the Web, click Publish, okay, say okay, and then Control-C to copy, and then Control-V to paste, and there it is. Click here to get your Flippity flashcards. So you can click on that link, and now I've got my flashcards. Now remember, I just wrote that, and I even had the H capitalized in the spreadsheet, so that's how it looks. So I can come back to that, and if I fix the text, get rid of that H, or make it the correct format there, go back out to Flippity and reload. Now it's correct, okay? So I can make those changes at any time, and now all I need to do is copy this link, put it in a web page or communicate it somehow to my students, assign it as put it as an assignment or an announcement in a Google Classroom, and students would have these flashcards that they can play with. Okay, so Flippity is good for creating quick flashcards. What Flippity doesn't do is that address the spaced repetition. It will not get to the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve automatically. So your students would need to customize their flashcards based on their memory, how well they did with the concept. There are some very sophisticated flashcard tools out there. The most popular one, the one that many medical students and lawyers, people that have to remember a lot of information and have it ready immediately, they use Anki. It's free, and it is just an extremely powerful tool. So the software that you install to get the full benefits of it only work on PC, Mac, or Linux. So it's not going to work on a Chromebook or on iOS or Android. But once you have established on the PC, Mac, or Chromebook, PC, Mac, or Linux device with the full software, you can then sync it to the internet, to Anki Web. You can use Anki Web exclusively. You don't have to put the software on a computer, but there are some huge benefits to having it on a computer first. But the Anki Web is where I'm going to go. I have several different flashcards here. I have not studied them recently. So we can see the dashboard for my Common Core standards flashcards here. I've got one new item that I added because there's an extension in Chrome, so I can add new cards automatically using the internet. But it says I'm not learning and not in the process of learning right now any. I've studied already, but I need to review 23. So what Anki is doing is taking that learning curve concept, forgetting curve concept, and saying, it's been some days and you need to review again. So it's telling me to get back up here, make sure that I understand these concepts. So I can look at the flashcards and click Study Now, and it's going to show me 23 cards right now. It's saying I'm on card 1, and I still have 23 to look at. So I can look at this, and it's telling me what is the ELA Literacy Shift 6, what is that about? So I click Show Answer, and I can assess myself right now. Did I know that? If I know it, did I know it really well? I can say it's easy. It will not bring it back to me for quite some time, okay? Because I've been studying this for a long time. It's actually going to say, if I said it was easy, it wouldn't bring it back to me for 3 years. If I said I was good with it, it'd bring it back in 1 year. Now, this is because I've been studying these cards a long time. If I said it was a little bit hard, it'd bring it back in 3 months. And if I said I need it soon, it'll bring it back in less than 10 minutes. This is an old deck that I've been studying. The dates, the time frame for a new deck, if I said it was easy, it'd bring it back in maybe 10 minutes. If I said I need it soon, it'd bring it back 2 cards from now. If I said it was hard, it would bring it back maybe 3 or 4 cards from now. So it'll be much sooner to come back to me. But it's using that concept. And my evaluation here, this Likert scale, is telling Anki when to present the card to me again to learn it. So let's say it was hard. Okay, so I keep showing the answers, and it's the same evaluation every time as we go to this. Now, that's just one deck of studying. I'm going to leave the page. I'll cancel that out. See if I've got a better deck here. So I've got a coding deck that I've created. I've got some new ones, so it's probably going to show me the new ones here. So I've been trying to learn a little bit of PHP, so I can look at that. So if I want to know what the modulo operator is, I kind of think in my head is that's the format, and then study it. Do I get it? If it's easy, it'll bring it back 4 days from now. If I'm good, bring it back tomorrow. If I need to see it soon, it'll bring it back very soon. Let's say I need it soon. Okay, so see the uppercase first letter. Okay, so showing the format for a variable. Let's say that was okay. And we just keep looking at this. So this example right here that we're looking at is an example of where the web version doesn't work so well. So I can create flashcards using the Anki Web, but I can't put in pictures and then hide parts of the picture for my flashcard. The way I created this was using the full software version of it. So I put a picture in the Anki software on my Mac, and then I hid the answers here. So I've just got a column, and there's an operator, and then the meaning of the operator. So I can just quickly box out that section, and then to see the answer, it just removes the box. It helps me to understand the meanings. So you can quickly take pictures and make them flashcards. So I really like that feature. And there are a lot of other aspects to the full version instead of the web version. But one of the cool things about the web version is that I can take an article like this one and take a word like outsourced. What does that mean? I mean, I need to study that. So I can take the Anki adder extension in Chrome here, and once I've okay, interesting. It should have taken the text, so I'm just going to copy the text. But when you click on the Anki adder, it should be allowing me to put in the word, and then I can put in a definition on the back of it, and I can even define what deck of flashcards I want it to go into. And I could even have a couple of different concepts for how I create that flashcard. Do I want just a basic front and back side of a flashcard? A close is quite interesting. Close is where I can take a sentence and highlight words in that sentence and hide them. So it won't show those words on the front of the card. On the back, it will show those words. So a lot of interesting concepts here. So anyway, if I wanted to, then, and I can also add tags here to help categorize the flashcard even further. If I wanted to, I just add it at that point. Okay, so you can do some formatting with the Anki web, but it's even more sophisticated when you do the full version on the software. All right, so that's Anki. Very powerful, free, and quite useful. Once you build out those decks, you can also put them on your mobile device. So the Anki apps also sync up with Anki web, so I can study on my phone. So there's no, you can study my flashcards at any time is the advantage to that. All right, so that's vocabulary, and well, we are out of time, so it is 2:49. So just wanted you to see if you have questions, feel free to contact me. Information is here, and also please fill out the survey. The NCDL Day survey can be found j.mp/NCDL Day survey. We'd love your feedback for all of the presentations that you've seen today during Digital Learning Day, or if you're watching it after the fact on YouTube, again, feel free to fill out that survey and give us feedback. Anything you liked or anything we can improve, please let us know. We really enjoy doing this, and we want to expand this and offer more opportunities in the future here for all 3 counties and maybe beyond. All right, so thank you very much, and hope you all have a wonderful day.